Here in front of me, I have the Kryptonite heavy duty New York chain for your bike. It's a bike lock, scooter lock. You might even use it for your propane tank. But this is what it is, and this is what it looks like. It's not light, it's heavy duty. And the cylinders for the chain itself are about 12 millimeter. And the weight on this is about 10 pounds. So if it's a deal breaker to have this much extra weight on you while you're riding, maybe you want to get something lighter. But if you're set on protection and security of your item, of your possession, then maybe you want to get something like this. And right here you see the rating, right? Kryptonite locks come with a rating system depending on how safe and secure your item is going to be according to this number. So numbers as high as 9 and 10, you can lead them with more heightened sense of security, and then you have lighter ones that are not as heavy as this, but they're more portable and less strain on your back and your joints. So the first thing you want to do is have something sharp handy, because they not only secure your possession, they're also secured to this piece of carton that you see right here in front of me. So I'm going to have my knife over here, open it, and just bear with me. And you can cut the zip ties from the back and free it. And you might want to keep this because it has a scan code, a QR code that you can use to register the lock, because these locks come with a certain amount of dollar amount for guarantee. This is a New York chain. And I guess it's labeled New York chain because New York, right? It's a place that's known for its beautiful tall skyscrapers and buildings and its tourist attractions as much as it is for theft of possession. So, but New York is also a place where people will ride their scooters a lot, and their bikes, especially now, the electric bikes and the electric scooters that are becoming very popular. You're going to need to at some point leave them someplace, because a lot of places don't allow scooters in there. A lot of places don't allow electric bikes in it because they think that the battery that it has might explode, catch fire. Let's remove the last piece of zip tie. And as famous with Kryptonite as well as other chains, it has this protective material around the chain to keep the chain from scratching your scooter or your bike. And there it is. Very similar to some of their other products, but this one is made for extra protection in the way that the chain is constructed, the thickness of it. And here it comes with 3 keys. So why does it come with 3 keys? Because people lose keys, because people might want to leave an emergency key somewhere on their keychain or in their wallet or in their car or at work. So here are the keys, and they have distinct key patterns, so that in case you need to make copies for yourself, you can make copies for yourself and keep the tags that are on it, because they also have QR codes on here that you can use to register. Yeah, it says it on the back, registration code. What a lot of people complain about these chains, besides the weight and the overall portability of it, is that sometimes the lock seems to get stuck. Now, I have experience with these bike locks before from the Kryptonite company. And is it a smooth turn, just wiggling it back and forth? No. Think about those locks that many times you need a little bit extra finesse to it to catch, so the keys can catch to the mechanism inside the locks for it to turn. That's my experience with it. I've had locks from the Kryptonite company last me for more than 15 years. So they work, you just have to know how to maneuver the key inside of the hole. So even putting it in, you have to wiggle it a little bit back and forth. And if it doesn't turn one way, right, you're want to go counterclockwise and doesn't, turn the other way, and it pops open like that. So that was rather easy, but it all depends on the type of key that you have cut for you. The key that it comes with, it might not be as exact, it might not be as precisely cut. So here I'm putting it back in, and now I'm turning it counterclockwise, and I'm pulling the key out. What I notice happens sometimes, this is a new lock, this is the first time that I've tried it, is that sometimes you have to put it in, and then you gotta kind of wiggle it a little bit, and then take the key out. And as the lock grows older, you might have to do it a little more. It doesn't mean that it's not working or you lost your possession for good and now your bike is stuck to the pole forever. But just keep in mind, you might have to wiggle the key a little bit, and it might not even turn. Sometimes when you go to open it by turning it clockwise, you might have to just pick it up and down, finesse it enough so that you have a smooth transition. Once you know what to expect, then you know what to maneuver or how to maneuver your lock and your chain. What else can I tell you about this chain? It has a certain luster to it, to the color. It's a gold color that this chain comes in. This is probably not their most expensive chain, but close to the most expensive chain. You could buy it on Amazon, you could buy it on eBay, probably anywhere from about $105 to anywhere to about $120. And then just shipping and handling and to wherever you live, that's also going to factor into it. So this is the size of the small U-lock that goes into the orange and black locking mechanism. And I've seen some people, if they don't want to use, they want to create less room between the chain and their device or the post that it's tied up to. They don't use this first lock. They'll use sometimes a second one, but that's up to your personal habit or however you want to use it. So let's say your device is there, then if the key is not set all the way to the side that it's supposed to open, if it's somewhere in the middle, it's not going to go in because the key is not turned fully to a way to open it or close it. But if you turn it to all the way to your all the way clockwise, the lock inside is going to be out of the way, so now you can close it, turn it, and pull the key out. And don't get me wrong, I think Kryptonite is smart enough to have read a lot of their online customer reviews where they see that some of these keys have not been cut precisely over the past few years, and they've gotten better in it. But you have to also keep in mind, after a few years of using it, you might have to put some WD-40. You might have to use not the original key that you've been using that you keep on your keychain. You might have to switch to the second key or another key, right? Remember in the original versions of these, they used to come with a key that actually had a flashlight on it, so you can, just as an extra tool, so you can use to find things. But these just come with 3 basic keys. Do you need a flashlight? You probably don't need a flashlight for it. And there's a Kryptonite. All right, everybody knows that it's supposed to be made of real strong material, but it's also supposed to deter Superman. So they make these extra durable, extra strong. Another thing I want to share with you, let's say you leave it at a post. Now, the chain might be strong, but the post that you are tying it to might not be strong. So keep in mind, you might want to check the post where you're tying it to, because when you come back, you'll find out that not only is your bike gone, but you notice that your device is gone with the chain. Because if it's a flimsy piece of metal that's there, someone can just come with a saw tool and just cut right through it, or some kind of pry bar and just pry through it, and take your bike or take your scooter Take your propane tank, whatever you're using this chain for. Take your gas grill or electric grill, whatever want to have. So make sure, even if you need to use another lock, get another lock. You might want to get another U-shaped lock for the back part of your bike. But don't just rely on, just because a bike post is there or a bike rack is there, that it's made with quality. I've seen bike racks that are put together just like IKEA tools. And you press a button and you separate them, and then you press it again and put them back together, so you could tie your chain around the rack, but then someone can just come, press the button, and separate the rack. So you can make away with the scooter, you can make away with the bike, and in the privacy of your own home or garage or chop shop, you can saw off the rack, and then you just have a scooter that now costs more than $1,000 or more. So that's your introduction to not only this bike lock, but also to some tips when it comes to the security of your device. Many people don't think about securing their devices, or think that, well, this room is dedicated to bikes. But what do many bike rooms not have? They don't have cameras, right? They might have a camera outside, but many of them don't have a bike camera inside, so they can see the person who came in. But if you cover your face, you cover your head, and you go inside, you can't tell. And even if you see who does it, doesn't mean that the person's anywhere in the vicinity. If you're even trying to find them, doesn't mean that they're in the same country or zip code or hemisphere. So these are things to keep you safe when it comes to securing your property. What no one wants to find, and especially if you live in a city or you don't have a lot of room where you live, or you don't want to leave your bike outside, well, you want to secure it somewhere where when you're expecting to use it, it's going to be there. Especially if you're in a large bike room, and they have a lot of other bikes. Guess what? A lot of people are looking at what you have, especially if you have a nicer item. So why wouldn't you want something to protect it, something to keep it where you need it and be ready for you to use as you need it? Now, does it mean that your property is not going to get damaged? No. People moving their bikes and scooters in and out, you're going to see that, well, yeah, that scratch wasn't there before, just like cars in a garage or parking lot. But you can at least assure you have a better chance, even if it has a scratch, that you can buff out, or a steering wheel that's now crooked, but you can have your property there that's still functional and there when you need it. Another thing I want to say about this lock is, I see a lot of people don't want to carry their locks with them, right? And that's mostly because these locks are heavy. So what many people do is they'll leave their lock on the rack or on the pole, and then the city moves the pole, and then you lost your lock, and these are expensive, right? Well, let's say you're at a pole that you know the city's not going to move anytime soon. I also see a lot of people leave their chains on the floor and not really secure their lock because their property's not there anymore. So they'll take their bike in the morning, they'll leave the chain on the floor. But guess what? The most valuable part about this lock is not the U-shaped lock or the locking mechanism, it's the chain, right? So if you just leave the chain on the floor, someone could come, pick up the chain, and use it on their own device, right? Because they don't need a key. If they just need the chain, they can just take the chain and use it for their own device that they have, which they might have lost, or they just might want to sell another one on eBay or Amazon for as something used. Don't leave it up to people to take care of your possessions. If you can secure and look after them yourself, it's your responsibility. Like people who go to the gym and they say, well, clean out the machines before, after you use it. But why should I assume that the person that came before cleaned the machine? I should clean it before I use it, because I shouldn't expect the person who left the machine before. Why should I expect the machine to be clean? No, I wipe my own behind, not my neighbor's behind. but that's a story for another day. Um, so these chains are meant to last. They are made with New York in mind. I've seen a lot of scooters. When I'm talking about scooters, I'm talking about the mopeds, like the kind, the Vespas. A lot of people will tie the front wheel, and those Vespas don't have a lot of places where you can tie it. But when they do that, they usually have the 3 foot chain. So this one's a little longer, as you can see. As I spread it open, that's about, I don't know, I'm saying a little bit more than, I'm gonna say 1, 2, 3, 4, about maybe a little bit more than about 4 feet maybe. That's enough room. And another reason why you might want to get this heavy duty lock is because you might go someplace and now you can, and you're going with your friend, now you can tie your bike and their bike together. And you only have to take one lock. Or you can tie your scooter to their scooter and tie the other one to the post because they have enough room here, there's enough slack here that you can extend this all the way across without actually running out of room to then put on the lock, right? So that extra weight might come in handy, especially if you are driving someplace and you just want to throw both scooters in the back if they fit, if you have a car that big, and just take one lock instead of two and make your life a whole lot easier. That's something that's possible if you have a bigger lock, or if you work someplace that they have limited storage for bikes, you might want to leave it outside. You might also want to cover it to protect it from the elements, but you also want to protect it with something like this. Now keep in mind, like I mentioned before, a lot of these workplaces, they have racks that are not too secure. You can take most of those racks off with a screwdriver or electric screwdriver or just a regular Phillips head screwdriver and make away with the property of the person without that their scooter is going to be there. I've seen a lot of Segways or just scooters in general just go missing because people will tie it to bike racks that are very flimsy. I've seen locks just go around the steering wheel, but not around the body of the scooter or the bike. What I've seen works a lot of times is if someone will take a U-lock and then they'll get one of those rope locks that makes their way around. But those are also, if anybody who has enough time can make away with whatever they want. So the goal here is to make it a little bit more difficult as possible, because cameras, they have cameras everywhere, but what the cameras will do is just maybe warn the next person, but not your property, but the next person that now finds out that your property was stolen or messed with because you didn't tie your property correctly, or because you had a lock that was inferior, that didn't have enough weight to it, that wasn't locked right. Many people are distracted nowadays, so they'll take a lock like this and they'll put it around, and then they'll realize, wait, it's not actually around the pole. I've passed a lot of bikes and I see that they're not tied around the pole. I see that they're tied around the bike, but whoever was tying it, sometimes you get distracted. You might get a phone call in the middle of you tying the bike, and then you realize, oh, it's not really all the way around. It might look that way, but it's not. But most people won't notice it, right? The common person is not out there trying to take a bike. Most people, I believe, are not trying to steal someone else's possession. But every now and then, especially if you're observant, you look over and you see, well, that bike is really not tied. Or look at the way that bike is tied. It's tied around the steering wheel, but it's not tied to any wheel. So what do you see in a lot of cities or places where your bike or your scooter is left for a long time? Especially bikes, you see the back wheel missing, you see the front wheel missing. Sometimes the owners will take the front wheel themselves just to avoid, especially if it's easily detachable, especially in those single speed bikes, just so you won't have to deal with the drama of, oh, now what am I going to do? And what many people do in the city is just leave their bikes tied to the pole, and they rather get a new one than just go home with half a bike. And some people take the seat too, but again, it all goes with your level of trust. And it's always going to be a risk. It's like parking anywhere in the community that you live. Anytime you're outside, you're going to have outside problems, or city problems, or really anywhere. So this is a Kryptonite New York lock. It's really a beauty. And again, what have we learned? The key, you have to sometimes finesse. If it's new, probably not that much, but keep in mind that eventually I think you will have to finesse to have it, the key go in and out, but that's part of owning a heavy duty lock. We also learned that when you tie your bike, you want to make sure that it's actually tied and not around parts of the bike that are really not holding down anything. We also learned that every bike rack is not the same. Some are flimsy, some you could actually take apart just by pressing a button and they come apart. Even if it's a city bike rack, you can take apart with a screwdriver, especially if it's not set and the cement is not set on the pavement for a long time. You could easily take it apart. We learned that after a while, you might have to put some kind of WD-40, especially if this is left outside for a long time. The metal inside will rust, but you might not be able to see it until you actually go use the key. But these are things that should not deter you from getting this. Just some tips that you should know, and so you can troubleshoot your own issues when it comes to this bike lock. It comes with 3 keys, and we learned that after a while you might have to switch to another one. We also learned that because of the length of the New York Kryptonite lock, that you can take it with you and tie 2 bikes together or 2 scooters, and it's all you need to pack because it's strong enough for both of them. But keep in mind also that you have 2 bikes together, now it becomes a bigger jackpot for whoever wants to break into it. So if you're not gonna just leave it there for 3 days and just say, hey, oh, don't worry, I have the lock and that's all I have to worry about. No, just keep in mind that always keep an eye on things. When people see that you are keeping an eye on things, they tend to stay away from it. They tend to not be, people who are in this line of work of taking stuff from other people, things that don't belong to them, they don't like confrontation. Even if they're armed, they usually don't like confrontation. They usually like dark places. They usually like people not noticing them. They like distractions. They like to be able to go unnoticed. So is this gonna save the day? It's gonna make your life a little easier. If you're worried about spending $120 for something that weighs a lot and you might not want to carry it with you everywhere you go, especially if you're carrying other stuff like a camera or a laptop or books. Just think about the headache that this can solve you, and you probably are only going to have to pay this price once. So keep that in mind. And also, if you're going to leave your lock on a bike rack, make sure it's actually locked while it's waiting for you to come back with your bike or scooter, because if it's not locked, someone can just take the chain and use it for their own property or for whatever else they want. It's a heavy duty chain. That's where the money is. Okay, hope that helps somebody. And if you're thinking twice about getting it, don't think twice, just get it. Keep your stuff safe. Do your best.